Hi, my name is Rob Noonan. I'm a co-founder of Rialto Markets. I will be your host for today's webinar, Secrets of Success, How to Achieve Equity Crowdfunding Success. I have a really great panel of experts to speak to that topic and take your questions. First, I'll start with Rialto Markets' own Ryan Simmons. He is the head of operations. He brings more than 30 years experience in the financial services industry. He has formed and managed teams at financial powerhouses Deutsche Asset Management, Goldman Sachs, and Morgan Stanley. He started his career at the New York Stock Exchange, where he worked as a runner. He is now leading the effort to bridge the divide between traditional capital markets and digital securities with a focus on operational efficiency, risk management, and client experience. Next, I'll move on to Sean Verrin, CEO and co-founder of Allergens. Sean, please excuse me if I'm saying that wrong. Sean has extensive background in the biotech sector and biomedical research. He brings his scientific background to the tech-focused Scrubs brand he now leads. Allergens sees Scrubs as more than just a uniform. They see Scrubs as the starting point of the impact that healthcare professionals have in the world. Allergens is the first brand to turn customers into partners by rewarding them with stock in the company just for shopping. With this model, Allergens is currently in its second round of equity crowdfunding via a 1.2 million Reg CF with Rialto Markets. Last but definitely not least, please welcome Peter Kassel, co-founder and CEO of HealthySole. HealthySole is a medical technology and consumer health company focused on developing innovative products that use ultraviolet light to kill pathogens. HealthySole products are adopted as part of infection prevention and control protocols to mitigate the risk of infectious diseases spread by pathogens on footwear. Over the past 10 years, Peter has spearheaded every aspect of HealthySole, from the development of product to patents and growth strategy. He is now leading their 40 million Reg A plus crowdfunding raise through Rialto Markets. Now, before we hear from them, I want to set the scene. Last year, crowdfunding globally generated $113 billion. That was a 1,021% increase on the year before. This is according to the platform PitchBook. Forbes reports that the private securities market was valued at $7 trillion in 2021 and is forecast to grow to 30 trillion by 2030. There are 27 million private companies in the US alone, with less than 1% currently traded on a secondary market. So today our panel will discuss how they plan to achieve equity crowdfunding success and how the growth of private equity crowdfunding means more innovative private companies can increase capital and grow their investor communities to make impactful and vital change. Now, a little bit of admin. If you arrived late or if you missed the end, this webinar will be available in full on the Rialto Markets YouTube channel. We'll also send you an email where you can watch the webinar replay. Now to the session. I'm excited to welcome our panel. Sean, I'm going to start with you. Tell us what's happening at Allergens. I hear you guys have been taking massive strides recently. Tell us about your raise, about your company, anything that you would like the audience to know to kick us off.
Well, thank you for having us, Rob. It's great to be here. And yes, things have been looking great at Allergens. As you mentioned, we are manufacturing the next generation of antimicrobial scrubs for healthcare professionals. And all of our scrubs have our proprietary antimicrobial technologies that have been shown to kill 99.9% of germs like MRSA and E. coli. And in a third-party head-to-head comparison between our scrubs and the leading competitor, Allergens was shown to be 4 times more effective at reducing microbes, which only helps to keep healthcare professionals safer. And we've been really pioneering this technology since 2017 in order to create products that can keep people cleaner, healthier, and safer. But for us, it's not just about the technology. We also have a unique business model that's helping to increase customer loyalty and retention. We're proud to be the first company that is giving our high-value customers a share of the brand just for the purchases that they're making. And our goal here is really to radically shift the relationship between corporations and consumers. So right now, we're several months into our initial launch, and things are looking great. We've had orders coming in, and our team has been working diligently to be shipping out everything to our customers. And we're very much in the customer acquisition phase right now. We're also in the process of developing new products that are going to be releasing in the coming months through Q2 of next year. And we're really excited with some of these new offerings and showing them off to all our customers. They've been the ones offering feedback on our products, and it's been so encouraging to see just how engaged people are with the brand already. And we've also been expanding our scientific advisory board, adding immunology expert and infectious diseases expert, both joining our team. So yeah, that's how it's been looking on the business side. And for the crowdfunding raise, we're currently running our campaign at, I think the link is up there at investorigins.com. This is our second direct Reg CF, so we have more than 50 investors in the business now, with nearly 300K raised so far. And it's been amazing just to build this community of investors who just believe in our mission. A chunk of them are healthcare professionals, and those who are not have already given us a number of referrals. So it's great to give them the opportunity to invest in our company at the seed round, while also having them be just so engaged in our growth and the trajectory of our company.
Thanks. I really do love your loyalty and retention program. And you're building a community in a different way. It's really interesting. Peter, HealthySole is looking to make a real difference. Tell our audience what you're up to.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, HealthySole, we've been working towards addressing what is one of the most under-addressed vectors or reservoirs of pathogen infection in hospitals. The way that I explain it sort of from the top is imagine dust in your home. How does it get there? From the soles of your shoes, from movement, from walking throughout a facility. I mean, if you walk through your home, what you're doing is ending up kicking dust into the air. When you then think about what is dust in a hospital, that is all of the pathogens that are shed from patients, from test subjects, from people coming in and getting checked. And then doctor to doctor, they move from patient to patient and bring each patient with them. With our product, we've seen some incredible results. Just from introducing it, we made a product that could fit essentially into any infection prevention protocol. One customer had recorded that by placing our unit outside of a room, we actually did a double blind with them. They put a unit that had active UVC and one that didn't. They saw a reduction of C. diff in their room by 30%. And that was just from putting in our unit. And that was C. diff, a fecal spore that's incredibly, incredibly damaging. And that was found, the presence of the disease was found on the walls and the clean air input, where treated, purified air was coming back into the patient's room. They were finding that fecal spore there, which goes to show both how these pathogens spread and also how we can actually reduce that just from the unit. It's very simple to use. Essentially, you stand on the unit for 8 seconds. You step up as if you were stepping onto a scale. It exposes UV light to the sole of your shoes, and within 8 seconds, we see really great reduction, up to 99.99% of bacteria and viruses, and then spores are, in there as well. So what we're planning to do now is we are commercialized. We're patented, we're commercialized. We have patents in multiple international areas. They're fantastic utility patents that are actually based around the technology that makes our product affordable to produce. We recently, just this week, found out that we are going to be, we had a systematic review that has been accepted by the top infection control journal, which is the American Journal of Infection Control. And we are looking to, scale our sales, essentially. We've seen that our best sales come from existing customers who buy 1, 2, 3 units, test the unit internally, either with scientific studies or just with their internal staff, and then come back and purchase many more. For example, we had one unit that was purchased by the National Institute of Health. They internally tested it for 6 months, which is, is this a problem? Sorry, I see on there that I might have some static on my mic. Is that true?
You might. We can hear you loud and clear. There's just a little bit of static.
Okay.
So continue.
As soon as I finish this up, I'll try disconnecting my mic and reconnecting
That's okay.
it. I
I'm going to
apologize.
Ryan next.
Yeah, okay. Well, the National Institute of Health purchased a unit and tested it internally, and they have some of the best research scientists in the world. They came back and bought units to outfit Frederick's Labs. Frederick's Labs is where they do all of the FDA and safety assessment testing for AIDS, cancer, and vaccine medications. So it is government standard, government protocol to stand on HealthySole before entering into those labs. Other examples are 40 units being purchased by the LAPD because they were dealing with typhus and typhoid fever outbreaks in their precinct. So they purchased 40 units. We even sold 105 units to a long-term care facility in Kentucky. So we just are now at the point where we've seen broad adoption internationally of our product, but we want to scale sales and get ready for an exit, for an acquisition. And, capital is the best way to make that happen.
That's great. Thank you. I might want to buy one from you to give to my sister, who always makes me take off my shoes.
A home unit's in there. So, depending on how we do, actually entering the home market with this technology is something we would love to do.
Yeah. Ryan, I'm going to go to you, give these guys a break. Walk us through the process from an investor's point of view, from the time they open the application through the confirmation of the investment.
Sure. So
it's amazing to me how much is in it. People just think you click a button and invest, but there's a lot to do.
Well, that's a lot of what we want to show, but there's a lot in the background that's happening from that completion of that application to issuance of shares. I think the first thing we have to do as Rialto Markets is make sure that the investor is real. Not often, but we have found that people come in with the right name and someone else's tax ID, someone else's address, someone else's phone number. Everything by itself is correct, but it doesn't actually equal one real person. So we're using a lot of state-of-the-art technology to make sure that first and foremost, the investor is real. Beyond that, we have to look at suitability. So if someone's making an arbitrary number of $50,000 a year, they can't invest $50,000 in one security. And it's less of us wanting to help facilitate the transaction and more of just a regulatory mandate. So we're looking at suitability, obviously age and a number of other factors that go into it. And depending on even the size or type of investment, accreditation might be warranted. Now, when we're looking at all of this information, there are exceptions that do come up. We follow up with investors to ask the subsequent question, whether it's a fat finger or more information that's required. And we are going to continue to work with that investor until we can make a determination that, yes, we should move forward and allow this investor to invest, or it presents too much risk. And in the interest of protecting the issuer and the other investors, we would have to say we can't move forward. Once the application to invest has been approved, we are going to move into the payment collection mode. So if it's a card that the investor is looking to pay with, or an electronic check or debit, direct debit, we are then going to initiate that payment. And the rationale is we don't want to have money in the account for investors we're not sure should be added to the investment table. So you have the application, you have the approval of the application, you have payment collection. Once we get past payment collection, we are now managing the escrow. So we're looking at the escrow account, we're looking at the monies that do come in, and we're pairing that up with the investors that have invested and who should have money on the way. And once we can pair that money up with the dollars versus an investor, we will let the transfer agent know that they should be issuing shares on that investor's behalf. And we would at that point consider that investor closed, meaning they've passed KYC, they've paid, we've received and reconciled their funds. and shares are then issued to the investor. They can now log in and see their shares, and they can do a host of things as a new shareholder to that issue. Beyond that, we also work as a control for the disbursement of funds to the issuer. So if the issuer has constraints on whether it's a time value and when they can first receive shares, whether it's a dollar value, an amount raised that they have to meet as a minimum, or whether it's just the private equity mandate that says it must last this term before dollars can be issued, we would wait until those conditions are met, certify that they are met, and then we would work with the escrow agent and the issuer in a tri-party fashion to make sure that the appropriate amount of cash, again, for closed investors, can be dispersed to that issuer. And we would direct that and require several sign-offs and agreement, a consensus amongst the signers that the money should be received. And from there, we then mark that disbursement and notate who, as an investor, is within that disbursement itself. So again, our overarching role is just suitability, reconciliation, and control as mandated by our regulators.
Yeah, you explained it terrifically, and it's still more complicated when you sit in your seat. But thank you. We're getting loads of questions. Please keep them coming. Also, if you want a particular person to answer the question, please put that in the question. I'm going to do a combo question. I'm going to start with Peter. My question to you is, tell us why you chose to do a Regulation A round. And I was going to ask, and Greta asked both of you, what are your plans? What is the use of capital? If you could go into that a little bit.
Yeah. Is my mic better, by the way?
Much, yes.
Great, perfect. So first was why we chose to go with a Regulation A+.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there are a couple of reasons. And one is that medtech, really less than 5 or 10% of companies that are going out within medtech are able to actually acquire the capital that they need. One of the reasons is that there is a lot of risk with a lot of medical equipment. The beauty for us, a lot of that risk comes from regulatory bodies. The beauty for us is that we are actually not considered a medical device. We are a mechanical device. We do not touch the human body. We do not have to make claims in terms of health. Really, all we deal with is a regulatory body that is an industry regulatory body, ETL, UL. So anything you plug into the wall, like a toaster, your television, the charger for your laptop, that's the company we go through. So we have really low regulatory bars. The other issue that we saw was that so much of medtech is based around where board members are in terms of their focal point, right? So cardiac stuff, neurobiology, all of these kinds of things, they follow a lane where, either they have an MD or somebody on their board has an MD. Infection control has not been an area that has had a lot of innovation. Frankly, it is owned by chemical solvent makers, 3M, Clorox, groups like that. So there isn't really this history within these groups for actual investing within that space, which meant that we were looking at investors that were more in a broad area of investment. That brought with it, all of these kinds of complications in terms of working into people's, synchronizing with people's portfolios. The last bit of it is that, frankly, I'm a younger guy, and a lot of people my age have taken this angle of, I'm going to vote with my dollar as a consumer. Vote with my dollar as a consumer. And when I learned about the Reg A, it struck me as something that was really incredible for medtech, because the fact of the matter is it's a market that we are all going to interact with in a multitude of ways. Family members are going to end up within the system, and if we're lucky, we will end up within the system at some point. And there's not a lot of ways within the medical system to vote with your dollar, right? As so much of the system is incredibly opaque. And I realized that with our product, we have the opportunity for the public to say, this is the type of medical care that I want. This is the way that I want to be treated. This is the way that my family members should be treated. And I want to not only benefit by the adoption of these kinds of technologies, I want to be benefiting financially as well. What we see here with our product is a huge opportunity, and to frankly try to hand that to people who are the ones who always get to invest in these opportunities, when every single person, once we are done doing our job and we exit this company and we give it to one of these large corporations, hopefully every single person coming through a medical facility will be treated by a doctor who stands on this like they wash their hands. We see this as an opportunity being at the gate of airplanes before getting on an airplane. And the idea that the public could both financially benefit and through health physically benefit through the adoption of this product was kind of an intoxicating opportunity. So that was really why we did that. Now, the use of funds, is really two things: scaling of sales and studies. We are ahead of the curve. We have the systematic review that's going to be, published soon, but we want to do more. We want to work with the top. We've been working with the top researchers in the world. For example, Dr. Curtis Donsky. He is a government employee, so you cannot commission him. He has come to us now for 3 separate studies trying to focus on how shoes actually cause transmission of diseases within enclosed spaces. He has approached us now for 3 separate studies over the course of 5 years. The reason why: he had this hypothesis, but had no way to test against the control until us. That tells us that we're ahead of the curve, medically speaking, which is amazing. I think it takes somebody like myself and my father, who started this company, who are outside of the medical space, to maybe see a problem that other people are too close to it to notice. We want to put money into studies and really prove to the market that without a doubt, this product is needed. The other things in terms of money, one of the things we would want to do is move from we have a gas-powered lamp. We want to move to LEDs, solid state, make it last longer, bring all that kind of stuff down. And then as well, we want to develop a home unit, which unit actually originally originated as that idea, as a home unit. And we would like to move into that as well, actually make our current technology more affordable for the home, improve the technology for the current unit, and really bring this to the market full force. But the use of funds is really scaling sales, especially international sales, because we see strong international adoption. Like, we would like to start a European office. We've spoken with some small countries about potential pilot studies. And if you work with a small country like Luxembourg or Austria and can show positive effects, European countries will adopt without the random controlled trials. We've had conversations with the Chinese government, with Taiwan, with Singapore, with Australia. So we would want to start a couple of smaller oceanic offices or a small European office and just go whole hog in making this thing adopted internationally to make it something that is irresistible to a larger corporation.
That's great. Thanks, Peter. Again, we could hear you just fine, but there was static that kicked in about 30 seconds after you started talking, but we could hear you fine. If you can fix it, great. If not, it's not the end of the world. Sean, I got a few questions for you here, but maybe you can just first talk about your use of capital, the question from Greta.
Yeah, sure, definitely. So for us, the funds that we raise from this offering will be used in a couple of different ways. First is we're trying to continually improve the antimicrobial technologies that are inside of our products. We've done a number of studies with independent laboratories to show that our scrubs are able to kill 99.9% of germs, like MRSA, E. coli, Klebsiella, and more. And because of this, what we're continually trying to do is improve the feel of our fabrics and the additional comfort inside of our fabrics as well. And so because of the existing framework that we have with the technologies that are inside of all of our scrubs, we're looking to increase the amount of scientific studies that we're running in order to validate further the effect that our scrubs can have compared to all the incumbents that are currently used by the market, which either have no antimicrobial technology or they use a really inferior antimicrobial technology that was actually pulled in from the gym. All of the existing scrub companies that are around today, they all use the same technology that's inside of all of your activewear. And while it's great for a gym setting, which is a low risk environment, it really doesn't function well once you're in a high risk setting like a hospital, where pathogens can really cause much more dangerous diseases compared to just, getting a little sick or something, or just having your gym shirt smell. So that's one aspect that we really want to focus on, is just providing more validation behind the technologies that we've already shown are extremely powerful and more advanced compared to the current incumbents. The other way that we're trying to use the funds that we're raising from our Reg CF offering is to expand our product portfolio in order to create additional designs and styles and really increase the number of offerings that we have for our customers. And the last piece is really going to be using it for our technology infrastructure and building something out that can better track the stocks that we are going to be giving to our customers as they're making purchases along the way.
Thanks. Sean, I'm going to stick with you and don't get overwhelmed. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. They're all very, very similar. Question 1 is from Paul. He says, what will giving away stock to your customers do for Origin? Graham asks, this strategy, what is the strategy of offering customer stock as part of the raise? And then, there's my question, which is, what advantages does crowdfunding offer you that other traditional methods do not? And I think the answer is going to be the same for all 3, but I can repeat the questions, or you can just go.
I'll start with the first 2 at least, and I'll see, maybe I might be able to segue into your question as well. So for us, I'd say for all companies, customer acquisition is costly and it's getting more and more expensive. Because of the privacy changes that have been adopted recently by Apple, it's affecting customer acquisition across the board for all companies. And you begin to see why a lot of companies are really transitioning from just acquiring customers to really rewarding loyalty and trying to really drive up the lifetime value of the customer. So by giving stocks to our high value customers, what we're trying to do is increase customer loyalty, increase customer attention, and increase customer engagement. Our belief is that consumers will be more likely to continue shopping with a brand that can deliver really substantial benefits, especially if it can be on the financial end. And just like our investors can participate in the success of our company with an investment, our customers can participate more heavily in the brand by just shopping with us more and being able to get stocks with us. It's our belief that since they are helping the company to grow with their support, they should also be able to get a piece of the pie here. And so because of our mission here and what we're trying to do in terms of reframing the consumer and the corporate relationship, for us, Reg CF has been a really powerful tool that has just allowed us to fundraise, but it's also really aligned with our values as a business. Reg CF really democratizes startup investing and allows anyone, regardless of their wealth, to invest. And the whole premise of the Jobs Act was to allow anyone to participate at the early stage of a company, in contrast to the world before, which was where you had wealth really concentrated into the hands of a few. So because we've allocated stocks to our high value customers, we want to build on this system in which profits aren't just held by the top executives or the company. Instead of rewarding the select few at Origins, we want to be able to reward everyone who's helped to make the company successful, which is going to be our customers and it's going to be our investors. And so for us, Reg CF has just been really synergistic to everything that we're trying to do and allowing the people who are interested to be involved in the company to become more involved.
Yeah, I really love how investors act as ambassadors. They're going to talk about you. They're going to follow you on social media,
yeah,
etc.
Definitely. That was
when you go to a party,
that was one of the things that drew us to Reg CF as well. Is just when you look at it from a numbers game, the more people you have talking about you and advocating for you, whether it's customers or investors, the more you're going to get from that groundswell. And it's just a really different approach to VCs. They'll have professional contacts, of course, and connect you at a corporate level for specific company trajectories. But we want to be more engaged with the community that we're serving and the community that we're trying to create before moving to other options. Crowdfunding has just allowed us to pursue that grassroots support that can come from doing something like this.
Yeah. When I go to a party, nobody cares that I bought a couple of shares of Amazon, but talking about investing in these private companies definitely gets people's attention. Ryan, I'm going to go to you for a minute just to talk about the client experience. I think you're on mute, Ryan.
Sorry about that. It's a constantly moving target for us. I think from as a broker dealer, we have a very strict set of rules that we must abide by as it relates to protecting the investor, protecting the issuer, full transparency, the ability to regurgitate any sort of information or data gathered at any point in time over years. But as we look at the retail market, we need to make sure, and we constantly have to refine our approach to make sure that we are passing everything that we need to as a broker dealer, while still maintaining the customer experience. The customer experience to us is something that is easy, transparent, and doesn't require a tech background to complete. In jobs past, we've kind of been very strict and hard, as it relates to institutional business. And the answer is, if you can't provide us this, we can't go forward. But we've been, I think, very fortunate to have, business technology and partners that have allowed us to really harness the next generation of KYC, the next generation of backgrounding, where it's immediate, it's comprehensive, it's thorough, it's transparent, and automation where appropriate. We can actually get decisions and sometimes in a matter of, fractions of a second. And we can go back with that, and begin a conversation, in some cases automated, but really also harness the value of the human interaction where it's really going to add value. And I think the feedback from a lot of the investors as we go through our processes is we continue to strike the right balance and being able to have that human element, being able to be accessible as a human, while at the same time providing answers that in some cases can prevent the needed phone call, the needed question. We make it a goal to be as front-footed as humanly possible so that every investor can know exactly where they are in the process as much as possible.
Thanks, Ryan. There's two questions about the class of stock in the Reg CF. I'm going to go to each of you, Peter and Sean. But Joe asks, what class of stock is issued and what rights are associated? Larry's question is a little bit more pinpointed in how does the crowdfund raise integrate with existing financing, if there is any? How does it affect previous shareholders when you're doing a crowdfund? And maybe you have taken investments. If that's the case, we'll move on. Peter, I'll start with you.
Hopefully, can you guys hear me?
Yes, it's great.
Yep. And is there static involved?
No.
I'm trying now every set of headphones in my house.
This sounds great.
Okay, great. So for us, the class of stock is going to be common shares, and everything we have is common shares. It just is the best way to do it. So we've had $5 million in investment prior. All of that is in common stock. Part of why we also did the Reg A is that, my father and I started this together. We have a very specific goal and a very specific way of doing it. He has an incredible history. He took two companies public from nothing that he started. He has a history in investment banking. He has a history as an investor, and his view of preferred stock for investment groups or things like that never worked well when he was an investment banker, and he avoided them when he was running his own companies to great success. And so I really took a lot of his advice. He has a lot of sage advice through 83 years of life. And so it just seems the best to have everybody have equal footing. So it'll not, any investments now do not have sort of a class A, class B, whatever. It's all common stock.
Great. Sean, how about you guys?
Yeah, so for us, investors are going to be getting common stock, Class A, non-voting, whereas our customers are going to be receiving restricted stock units as opposed to traditional stock options.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to ask a couple straight from the chat here. For Peter, your product, I think you spoke about this a little bit. Your product is commercialized and on the private and public healthcare markets. Do you have any other notable clients in addition to the National Institute of Health? And then a follow-up question is, when do you see an opportunity for business to customer strategy? Maybe I prompted that with my comment about my sister.
Yeah, well, it's something we've had in the back pocket, and a couple of test units that we've had in the storage unit. But for other notable clients, we've sold to the VA, multiple VA hospitals, also VA long-term extended care for retired armed forces. Who else? Sony has purchased some units actually for certain situations in which they had to be within person during COVID. We sold units to Google. They had them in their executive offices during COVID when they had to do work that was too sensitive for work from home. We've had conversations about adoption of the product in all of their daycares. Who else? We have one client that we legally cannot name by name. They're a top confectioner, a top candy and confectionery company within, actually, I would say maybe the top. They use the product in their QA facility. So when they're taking something off the line to test, we've the New York Presbyterian, JetBlue, and what's interesting about all of these sales is all of them were natural. We did not go out and commission any of these people. Our focus strictly really is on the medical space. Our marketing, our branding, all of that is medical space. What's kind of shocking is that many of these sales came when we were developing our sort of outreach methods. So, from our perspective, what we actually see is we want to focus on long-term care. We want to focus on hospitals. Our unit is $5,600. We actually have an agreement with Mitsubishi Financial, so we can actually lease or rent the products to customers as well. So we see there being an opportunity for doctors' offices, dentist offices, private practices, things like that. But our focus has been the medical world because that's one that really has the most impetus for the product. But again, we've seen this thing where we're out there talking to hospitals, we're out there talking to surgeons, doctors, things like that. And, we all of a sudden just get a phone call from the LAPD out of the blue. We get an email from the long-term care facility. We get JetBlue reaching out to us wanting to do tests about possibly putting them at the gate of their airline. And the truth is that actually we've been constrained in the way we can talk to a lot of these folks because of our capital. Another notable client I forgot is actually Dr. Richard Lehman at Landmark Hospitals. He is the top sports physician in the world, works on Olympic, NFL, NHL, MLB, NBA athletes, is a personal trainer for celebrities, things like that. He adopted our product very early on. He's been a huge champion of it because he deals with the most important joint replacement surgeries. I mean, people whose entire, multi-million-dollar livelihoods depend on him being at the top of the line in terms of prevention. Those are some of the things in terms of markets that we want to, the markets that we've reached out to rather than going after ourselves and the way that we've been doing things.
Thank you. Sean, Adam is asking if you can explain more about your scrub technology and I guess specifically, how is it 4 times better than competitors?
Yeah, definitely. Our technology that's inside of our scrubs is utilizing an infusion-based process. So rather than starting at, currently what's happening in the market is incumbents will have a finished fabric and they'll simply just spray on the antimicrobial coating onto the finished piece. The problem with this is that the antimicrobial wears off very quickly over time. So after you wash it a couple times, and especially because we're considering, medical scrubs that doctors and nurses wear, they're wearing these garments every day. Every time they wash it, that antimicrobial property is chipping away. And so over time, doctors and nurses are getting exposed because their scrubs are just losing all of this functionality. Additionally, all of these pieces, they're tested at a very long range. So when our competitors are talking about the fact that their scrubs may be antimicrobial, usually they're testing it after the germs have been sitting on the garment for 24 hours, which in a hospital setting isn't really very effective. Because by this point, the doctor or nurse would have just walked through the entire hospital, seen dozens of patients, and after that point, they've gone home, they've taken all those germs with them back into their car, back into their home, to their families, and it's causing cross-contamination from patient to patient and even from the hospital back to the home. So because of this, we wanted to completely restructure how the technology is applied even. So we went all the way back to the thread and started at that point. So our antimicrobial technology is infused directly into every thread of our fibers. From there, it gets spun into a fabric and woven, and from there is where we make our scrubs. This results in a much more effective and a much more longer lasting technology that is able to keep healthcare professionals safer over time because it's antimicrobial for longer periods. And in regards to the 24-hour testing, instead of doing that standardized test that is run by the entire market, we really wanted to push the bounds of our technology. So we ran our test at 2 hours and we were still able to get 99%. Whereas the leading competitor, for example, they were only able to get to 26% in terms of percentage of germs that were killed. So that right there is how we're able to just surpass all of our competition here, because our scrubs have been independently tested to be 4 times more effective than our competitors in this regard.
Great, thank you. I know you guys both use social media. Jim is asking, can you provide any insights on how you use social media for investor outreach? I think, I can't remember who touched on it with the Apple stuff, and it's become a little bit more difficult, but maybe Peter, I'll start with you.
Yeah, well, with social media, there's one of the things that we're actually going to be doing more of is, really education with social media. One of the problems with the medical system is that it's worked very hard to be opaque. Price transparency, statistics transparency, so much so that the U.S. government has to, basically help facilitate groups like Leapfrog to make what are public numbers more visible. And so, the fact of the matter is that right now for 2021, there were 900,000 infections within a hospital. I think that might have been 2022 numbers. The amount of money that is paid by hospitals within the US to treat that is nearly $55 billion. And that capital comes not out of the pocket of the hospital. They bake that into the pricing. It's not out of the pocket of your insurers. That's also baked into the pricing. It's out of the pocket of everyday Americans. It's out of the pocket of every single American citizen. And the idea that there is $55 billion that is essentially getting, subsidized by the U.S. Medical, people who are entering the medical system is pretty upsetting. And, the CDC suggests that 70% of those infections are preventable, meaning that with just the adoption of technologies like ours, there could be a savings of up to $35 billion for hospitals. So we are now focusing on helping to make that a more visible reality for people. And, Apple definitely, and all of these changes in terms of privacy, which frankly are not, on a personal level, they are what they are, but from a business level, that definitely makes an issue. The truth is that some of what our marketing budget is going to be is just boosting these posts, right? Because for us, we believe that this is something that is extremely important. It's something that almost anybody can understand, right? Who doesn't know a person who got MRSA or, had an issue with a hip replacement, their grandparents, or, my father actually contracted septicemia during a routine biopsy that nearly killed him. He actually
became ill at the airport after having his biopsy. His plane was delayed. And if he had been on the plane, if it were on time, he would have actually passed on the plane in the air. And this is not an abnormal story. This happens almost 1 million times a year. And we believe that just by boosting these posts and posting this and showing statistics and bringing it up and continuing to hammer it home, that there is going to be a motivation from the customers, that there is going to be, an emotional component, which has also been very valuable for our retail investors, which is that, this is a real problem. It's a real problem that happens on a daily basis. And, do you want to enter into a medical system that sort of condones this and just sort of bakes it into the price? Or do you want to be in a medical system that does literally everything possible through both prevention and intervention to make your life better?
Thank you. Sean, how about you, the social media? How do you use it?
Yeah, definitely. So for us, we are a B2C company, a direct-to-consumer B2C company. So because of that, social media for us is really important in order to drive customer engagement more. And so right now we are very much in the customer acquisition phase, and social media is really being used to create a community of people who are more engaged in the brand. And right now we're specifically targeting the consumer, our customer essentially. And our long-term goal is to start educating our customers on the value that they will receive from the stocks that they will get just by shopping with us. So over time, our social media, the content that we'll be providing to our customers and our investors will start to merge into one, because we'll be able to create more educational content that really delivers on the value that our customers and our investors are going to be receiving in the company.
I actually would like to add, I apologize, I forgot about this. One of the things we've been doing with outreach is actually looking at opted-in medical professionals on marketing lists or education lists, and have been reaching out to them directly that way. So that's actually been our greatest outreach right now, is to medical professionals, as they are the ones who deal with treating folks who are infected. I mean, you will most likely, if you ask a nurse what they do with their shoes, hear that they either have a dedicated bag in their trunk or that they change their clothes in the garage before actually entering into their home to see their family. And so we've been essentially sort of partnering with them through our marketing methods, more so than currently leaning on things like Facebook and Twitter, because we want to speak directly to them. The Facebook and Twitter will increase. Part of that is that we're a small team that's very focused on sort of running the company and finding the investors. But that's one of the things with our expanded capital, is we want to focus then on public perception of the problem.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you both this question. Sean, I'll start with you. Please give us your goals for the next 3 to 5 years. This is coming from Graham. I know you can't talk about investor returns, but maybe talk about exit strategies.
Yeah, sure, definitely. So for us, over the next couple years, we're really looking to expand in the number of customers that we have. And what we're really trying to work towards is an IPO down the line. There is a hefty amount of work that's involved and spend that's required in this process, even if we were to go with a direct listing. But since we are pioneering such a disruptive business model, I would love to be able to create a roadmap for other companies to follow in our lead and really fundamentally shift the relationship between companies and consumers. So I think that's generally what the timeline looks way down the line in terms of our long-term goal. And we have a lot of steps to take before we get there, but we're really right now focused on increasing the number of customers that we have, really expanding and scaling our customer acquisition pipeline, creating new products for our entire product portfolio. And in terms of new styles, new fabrics, and new upgraded technologies and in different types of fabric. And the last piece is really beefing up the scientific studies that we have. So that's why we're bringing on so many partners into our scientific advisory board and bringing on really key opinion leaders who can help to get us to the results and scientific studies that we need.
Thank you. Peter?
Yeah, our goal would be really for an acquisition for the most part. Depending on how the future runs, I mean, anything is possible, and thanks to the experience of my father as the chairman, we can be flexible and very sort of nimble about what happens depending on how things go down the line. But frankly, what we're looking at with our product, especially after COVID and after the world really woke up to the fact that antibiotic resistance is only getting worse. Antibiotics are not a renewable resource. They will stop working. Medical facilities are now dealing with the fact that they are unable to work at a profit after COVID, and so they're going to be looking at ways of maybe recouping some of that 55 billion that I mentioned is being left on the table. And that we were shocked to find fire departments, police departments, and so many other markets are realizing that they are nerve centers of society and cannot deal with outbreaks, rough flu seasons, and things like that. I mean, even through climate change and geopolitical issues, we have more virulent infections. We're discovering new diseases. We have, I think, 7 diseases are being tracked by the Center for Pandemic Prevention. It's our market has grown significantly since COVID. So we saw the market originally as like a 2.6 billion US market. But, international market now has grown to something like 7 billion. So our goal over these 2 to 5 years is to show the upward trend, of investments and exit out to a large company. It would be fantastic to see something like HealthySole by Clorox. That would be sort of the dream for us, is to pass it on to a large, multi-arm conglomerate that can really make sure that this is everywhere.
Thank you. There's one question from Jim. I'm going to answer that question actually, which is unusual, but I know Jim. I've spoken to Jim a few times. After that, I think we're going to start to wrap it up, and I'm going to give you each an opportunity to have some last points, and then I'll go through a little bit more admin. But Jim asks, what can Rialto do for crowdfunding as a broker dealer that a competitor who isn't a broker dealer? So there's 2 different types. There's a self-hosted and the platform. And as a self-hosted, we want you all to spend your marketing dollars to get people to go to your website, and you own the data and the customers. You can market to people directly. There is a cost component that I'm sure, Jim, you might know a lot better than me. I'm not going to speculate on what competitors charge, but understanding the data around your raise, and if you're getting investors from your Google ads or your Facebook ads, it allows you to kind of turn those dials. And again, we don't want investors coming to our website, although we do have tiles for all of these companies. We want you to go to the company's website. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to you guys. Sean, maybe I'll start with you. Any last thoughts, advice you want people to know about your offering? Anything that you want to say?
Yeah, sure. So what I will say today is that we've talked a lot about the hazards that these microbes can present in the clinical setting, and the massive opportunity that can come from reducing the prevalence of these kinds of infections. And so what we're really trying to do is we're tackling it from one side, the scrubs that healthcare professionals are wearing every day, and the clothes that they're bringing into and out of the hospital. And we're really trying to deliver a higher scientific standard into the industry. And so for us, equity crowdfunding, it's been a powerful tool that really allowed us to bring these technologies to our target customer. And it's allowed us to market towards investors and towards customers directly in order to craft an experience that's in line with our brand. And this has been really instrumental in being able to just attract the capital that we need in order to continue bringing these innovative solutions and products that can have a real impact while benefiting everyone that's involved.
Yeah, and then I guess from my end, it's, you know, essentially we have been resting on our laurels for a bit for the last 80 years, right? It's any indoor space, maybe we'll mop it, we'll definitely vacuum it, and we'll move on. You know, and entering into this world, I was shocked to hear that even a lot of hospitals have stopped using chemical solvents on the floors because it ruins the tiles. And so they'll have to pay for the new tiles, or also there's a trip hazard from using wet materials. I mean, from a personal perspective, you know, I don't talk about this much. I mean, my son had entered into an oncology ward, you know, and we were there for 8 weeks. And because the hospital was so understaffed, my wife would have to call the maintenance because they weren't cleaning the floor every 24 hours. You know, human cost has become so exceptionally high that we need to find real methods of being able to address this problem. I mean, 2 Surgeon Generals ago, the theme song was "Antibiotics are not a renewable resource." And COVID was not a sort of result, or it didn't create the new normal. What COVID did was showed how poorly we are addressing the problem. And when something like that occurs, from an investment perspective, there's an opportunity. When I said that there was very few companies or investors that are investing within infection control, I would say that that's not an issue of their due diligence. That is an issue of their looking at possible options, that they are, again, resting on their laurels and having their blinders on. We have seen the market respond, and we are loving the opportunity of being able to share this with, you know, with the people who are going to, at some point, interact with these systems. Will have their lives or loved ones assisted through preventative medicine. So, you know, for us, it's sort of this thing that, you know, we've been doing this for 10 years because we care about it, and we care about the system, and we care about medical, you know, medical treatment. And this is something that I wanted when my son was in the hospital. It's something that I would want when I'm in the hospital. It's something that could have prevented my father's nearly fatal infection. It's very real, you know? And so we're doing this because we care about it. And the financial opportunity is, frankly, it's enormous. And so, you know, we are just very dedicated into what we're looking at here and how we want to go ahead with it.
Thanks a lot, Peter. I appreciate it. All 3 of you, Peter, Sean, Ryan, thank you so much for being on the panel. It really was great. Again, a little bit of admin. The whole webinar will be available on our website, on our YouTube channel. I see in the chat that someone asked, how do we invest? And that's been posted. You can go to those websites. You can come to our websites. Like I said, there's a tile for all the investments. But again, we prefer that you go to their website. If we didn't get to your questions, we apologize, but we do keep the questions. We'll distribute it to the panel. We'll answer them as best that we can. But this has been really great. I really appreciate you guys being on. And thanks to the audience. There were a lot of good questions, and I see they're still trickling in, but time is up. So we'll get to those questions as we can. Thank you, everybody.